by dawn. Dead 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 by dawn.
Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I'm joined by horror tuber Bobby Torrez. Bobby, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for inviting me to talk about this crazy ass wild movie. I really appreciate it.
No, man, this is so awesome. I'm so excited. But before we get into the reason why you're here, Bobby, I want those of you that don't know, Bobby has a channel on YouTube called Bobby Likes It Spooky, where he reviews horror films, has themed rankings, fun collaborations, and talks all the things that keeps him spooky. So you don't have to go searching for it. Why? Because the link is right down here in the description. So make sure you're clicking this link and sub into his YouTube channel, as well as I have all his social media links right down here. So give him a follow. He's a very great dude. I have so much fun talking to this guy. We've actually just been talking for a while before we even started the podcast because just a genuine friendship has been forming, and I very much enjoy it. So anything I missed, Bobby, that you can tell people about your channel that I didn't cover?
No, you good. You covered everything.
I was waiting for you to be like, I have a channel called Bobby Likes It Spooky where I review horror films. I
was going to do that, but so you know what? I'm going to just mess it up. You said it so perfectly, so I said, you're good.
No, man, it's so much fun, man. I love themed rankings. I love watching all that stuff. And the thing is with horror fans, especially horror creators, we are not, I grew up in a punk rock scene, and it seemed like when you were in a punk rock band, you always like had friends that were in other punk rock bands, but you always kind of spited that band because they were doing the same thing as you. But it's not like that with the horror scene. Like, we're all so proud of each other. We watch each other's content. We give each other advice. We give each other criticism, and everybody handles it so well because we all want each other to succeed. Like, the more you succeed, the more opportunity I have to reach out to people. So I'm rooting for you, man. And I love your content, and I hope that you continue to build and grow. And you guys can help to do that by clicking the link down here in the description and hitting that subscribe button, giving him some thumbs up, watch the video all the way to the end. Don't be a dick. So, any videos you got coming up here in the near future that you can talk to us about? Or
yes, I'm doing some more collabs tomorrow. I'm doing by the time you guys see this, it's going to probably be out already, but American Horror Stories just came out, and I'm doing a little collab with some friends on a recap review of the first 2 episodes that hit Hulu. And then this weekend on the 17th, I have another collaboration talking about Lovecraft Country, pretty much because it got canceled. So we're just showing our love for the show, the series, and pretty much just like a good send-off, just our thoughts on the show, because unfortunately it got canceled, and it was such an amazing show. And then Sunday, I have another collab where I'm talking about the last Fear Street movie, Fear Street Part 3, 1666. And I'm collabing with another friend of mine. Yeah, I seen it, and I had a good effing time. I don't swear if I can curse here, but I had a good time.
We can talk about it now, because by the time this episode airs, it will already have been populated by the viewers. So I will tell you this, guys. I'm not going to get too specific just in case you haven't seen it. The scene in the church literally made me go, oh shit. Like, that was a scene that really got me. And I love the fact that it's not just 1666, it's also 1994 part 2. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely brilliant the way they set up the traps, and the way that they likened back to 72 and 94. And it just, I enjoyed it a lot. Halfway through 94, I was like, man, I don't think this is really my bag. But you let it go, and you're like, man, the way that they wrapped this up was absolutely brilliant. So if you guys have not seen the Fear Street trilogy, it is available on Netflix. I would strongly recommend, as I'm sure Bobby would. Yep. Make sure you guys are checking that out, man. I can't wait to watch your collab and see all your thoughts in depth on everything that happened in the last movie. So
yes, I did 1994 part 1, and that was a good time. I loved it just because I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the 90s, and just to see all like the nostalgic things that's in that movie, AOL chat room, and some of the music and things like that. And at first I was saying this is not my type of thing either, but I did appreciate the homage to like Scream, and just I love a good slasher. And then what happened at the end of 1994, my mouth was literally on the floor with the kills. And then when 78 came out, I had a good time with that one. And I just like how all these movies, all 3 of these movies, they have a legit awesome story. And then with 1666, they just connect from the beginning. And I think that's what made me like 1994 a little bit more now.
I agree.
Because it ties everything together, and I understand things more. I understood it more. So I actually enjoyed it. And I think, I don't know, but I think I was thinking maybe 1978 was going to be my favorite, but I think 1666 is. And I wasn't too sure because usually when shows and movies go back in time and try to tell a story and things like that, I'm just like, all right, like hopefully you don't screw this up or it's not my thing. But they did an absolutely amazing job telling that story of Sarah Fair, and then going back to 1994 and just tying everything together and just seeing those killers go at it with each other. I was just like, yes.
And it's funny because I felt the same way you did. I was like, man, we're going to keep going back. And by the time we get to 1666, we're going to know everything that happened. So what's the point of even watching this one? They made damn sure, just like Taking Back Sunday, that you were not going to see that coming. And it's one of those things where I genuinely was surprised by the twist in this. Usually you kind of have a feeling of what's going on, but this played out like a pretty straightforward haunting story. But to get to the twist that you had there at the end was just like, holy shit, that's fucking brilliant. Like that's so ingenious the way that they wrapped this all together.
I did had a feeling, again, I don't want to give it away, but I did had a feeling that Sarah Fair wasn't the person they was making her seem to be. Because I watched enough like Are You Afraid of the Dark and like Goosebumps episodes where they do stuff like that. So I'm just like, I have a feeling that she's not like this evil person how they make her seem, but to see who it actually was, and I'm just like, okay, and why? I'm just like, okay, this is pretty dope, and I'm just so happy we got it this summer. This was something that I think we all needed in horror this summer. So anytime I see somebody hating on Fear Street, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, I'm not saying we're liking horror because there's horror movies out there like constantly spewing out, but a good time slasher film like right now until Halloween Kills come out, and then Scream 5 in January, like this is going to hold us over for the summer.
And not just that, it had big names in it that are hot right now, and there wasn't terrible acting in it. It wasn't overdone. You didn't get blown up before you seen it. Like it just came and it hit so hard because it's great. And you're always gonna have those people that are like, oh, well, now it's mainstream, so I think it's lame. It's like, dude, come on, man. And a lot of these people are younger than us. I've grown up and I'm not the cynical asshole I used to be. I'm not the guy like, oh, Blink-182 sold out on Enema of the State. I'm like, no, Enema of the State's the shit, man. Like, I get it. So that's where I'm at now. But Bobby, we talked about what you're doing in the future, and we know what you're doing right now, my friend. But now I want to take it back to the past. And I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre. And your first horror movie, my friend, was
Evil Dead 2.
What a fantastic start, because Evil Dead 2 to me is, I just talked about this on another episode. The three horror movies that I think are the closest to perfect for me are Jaws, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Evil Dead 2. Like, these movies may not be perfect, but they're perfect to me because of how much I absolutely love and adore these movies. So do you remember how old you were the first time you seen Evil Dead 2?
The closest memory I have, I'll probably say, all right, so I grew up in a family where we are true horror heads, especially my aunt and uncle. My aunt and uncle, we're kind of close in age. They're one is like 8 years older, 7 years older. And I spent a lot of time around them as a kid. They watched me a lot. And they introduced me to a lot of horror movies, but I remember this one specifically sticking out just because I feel like they watched this a lot. And back then, obviously VHS tapes. We used to have like recorded movies. So back in the day, if you had a VHS tape, and depending on how many hours is on it, and if it's a blank tape, you could record up to like 3 movies on there. But this one was just by itself, and it just stood out. And I remember that it was something that I pointed out to, and I remember me and my aunt just sitting back and watching it, and I was literally like freaking out because I never seen something as cuckoo bananas as it was. And I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like I was watching Goosebumps and things like that, which is great gateway horror. Like I watch Goosebumps every Saturday on Fox, and I've seen stuff like that. But with Evil Dead 2, just like the over the top blood and the demon, like how they transformed and how exaggerated their faces look after they transform. It was just something I've never seen before, and I was so in awe. But obviously when I had to go to bed and stuff, I would definitely like freak out just because I would those memories
Dead by
be
Dawn.
embedded in my head. Yes. It was a lot.
Kids these days will never know the struggle of trying to find a piece of tape to put over the end of your VHS tape
so you can
record the next thing after the tab had been broken off,
dude. I got in trouble so many times for recording over stuff that I shouldn't have recorded over, just because I put like a tissue or like a piece of paper with tape over so I could record over it, just because that's how bad I wanted to record something.
My fifth birthday, Batman didn't show up. We
Right.
don't need this shit. Evil Dead. So, Evil Dead 2, this is something I just recently did a franchise ranking with a good friend of mine, Kat, from the TGIF podcast. And in the Evil Dead world, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite in the franchise. I think that it's the most solid. And I think that, to me, I'm a big comedy fan as well. And I think that this movie is the perfect balance of horror and comedy, as to where the original Evil Dead is just strictly horror. And to me, Army of Darkness is not a horror film. To me, it's an action adventure sci-fi film, and which is fine. It's a comedy sci-fi film. And I think that it's probably the most quotable, growing up. This is my boomstick, like that's shit that I said all the time growing up. Now with Evil Dead 2, this is a film that is so full of iconic scenes that people talk about even if they had not seen the film. So what would you say is the scene, Bobby, that affected you the most from Evil Dead 2?
Okay. The one that got me the most was when they locked Ash in the cellar and they were playing the tape, and Henrietta's head popped out of the ground and she just started to say, "You're my fruit salad." Someone with a pencil.
Once in my fruit salad.
And that literally just, oh my gosh.
Like this is such an iconic moment in horror history to me. Ted Raimi played that role beautifully. And for all the hell he went through in that role, he deserves all the credit, because it's such an impressive, and like you said, the way something's in my fruit salad. Like, it's so great, man. Such a fantastic.
You know what? As a kid, though, you're scared of the basement in general, right? So, like, I just imagine, and I'm the type of person, I'm very visual, and when I watch horror movies or movies in general, I put myself in those situations, and I've been that since a kid. So I imagine myself being, and I used to spend a lot of time with my aunts and uncles, and they used to play around and lock me in the basement. So I had a feeling that time was going to come again when they were trying to scare me, and Henrietta was going to actually pop up from the ground and like devour me. So that terrified me, like, to this day, man. Like, I mean, now I'm obviously adult, but to me, it's triggering, because I remember how it scared me as a kid. But I know it's obviously, not real as a movie. But that movie, I mean, that part of the movie it got me out of here all the way. And I tell people that all the time when they say, like, what was the one scene in that movie? Henrietta, to this day. I even got a little toy of her right here.
That's beautiful, man. That's so beautiful. You can tell that the boomer from Left 4 Dead was totally influenced by Henrietta, man.
Oh yeah,
like that's total influence there.
Totally, definitely.
And it's funny you say that, because with Evil Dead 2 and with Henrietta, not only is it that part that's scary, but when the head comes up, and she almost has that long neck, and it's just such a man, that right there. That's it, man.
Yeah.
And you're talking about this movie and how that scene still gets you to this day. I don't condone drug use. I want to start that off right here before I say what I'm about to say. I don't condone drug use. But watching your first horror movie is literally like taking your first hit of smack, man. Like, you get that high, and then you're constantly chasing that dragon again. You always want that scare and that fear. And I feel like the first horror movie we watch is kind of the horror movies that we gravitate towards in the future. Like, I feel like if you watch a slasher first, you have a softer spot for slashers. If you watch, maybe an exorcism type movie, you have a softer spot for those, like a religious type movie. Where Evil Dead 2 is just right in the middle of everything. Like, it's such a great start to your horror life. So we talked about which scene affected you the most, Bobby, but I want to go a little different here. What would you say your favorite scene from Evil Dead 2 is?
My favorite scene, there's a few. Obviously, the one that I just said, because even though it was scary, that's still one of my favorite scenes. I look forward to that part. But there's so many like iconic moments in here. One of them is when I think it was the beginning where Linda is possessed and she's like out there dancing. Is like her, her corpse is out there dancing and spinning and twirling. It's really funny. It's comedic. But back then, as a kid, I just didn't like. It was still scary to me. But as an adult now, I'm just like, I love that scene so much because she's literally dancing out there, putting on a show, and then she does this little leap behind the tree and is like, ah!
We actually got the
Yes.
magnifying glass necklace.
What? That is dope. That is dope.
Man. Like,
yes,
we're big Evil Dead fans in this house, man. Like, I got to ask you real quick. Have you seen the Evil Dead musical?
I haven't, and I've always been like so jealous to whoever went to go see it. Like, I've seen clips of it on YouTube and things like that, but I never went, and I'm so mad I never got a chance to go see it. But I heard it's a good time.
When it comes back, make sure you go. Make sure you go early so you can sit in the splatter zone because they spray you with blood and shit. Dude, it's so great. What the fuck was that? Like, it's so fun. Dude. It's great, man. My wife took me for our anniversary. She surprised me with it, and it was just like,
That's
this.
dope.
You are the shit. This is awesome.
I love that.
Evil Dead 2, even though there's not many, something we as horror fans always look forward to is the kills. So what would you say your favorite kill from Evil Dead 2 would be?
Ooh, when I want to say Baba Joe, but I scratched that. It's her boyfriend. I forgot his name, but it's when he's by the cellar, and I think his leg or whatever is messed up, and Henrietta. And I remember this too as a kid. I'm like, why would they lay him next to the cellar door? Something's going to happen. Like, she's going to grab him, and guess what happened? She grabs the guy. I forgot his name, and
I can't think of his name either. Bobby Joe.
Yeah, I mean, we remember her because he screamed it, but we don't remember him. And rest in peace. I think he unfortunately passed away. I think earlier this year or so. But the part when Henrietta grabs his head and like brings him into the basement, and all the blood is just like spewing out, just like it looked like Kool-Aid just coming out.
It's the most comically over amount of blood.
Yes.
It's funny. I don't know if you know this or not, but the reason they made these blood scenes and everything so comical is they were shooting really hard for a PG-13 rating. After Evil Dead, Sam Raimi has come to say that he was really embarrassed by the tree scene in the original Evil Dead. And that's why Evil Dead 2 is almost a reboot of the first one.
Yeah.
And he said that he wanted to get rid of that stigma and he wanted this to be PG-13. And that's why a lot of the blood and everything is so over the top and super fruit punchy looking. Yeah. Because they were aiming for that PG-13, but they knew there was no fucking way that was going to happen.
No, definitely not.
But you're right. It is almost fruit punchish and it's so beautiful, man. Like, I love this film and I love every part of it. I love when Ash is shooting at his hand and then the hand goes in the mouse trap and then gives him a bird. Perfect, man. So
I think that's one of the most iconic scenes in a movie, just the hand just going around and just him fighting his own hand. It's so good. I don't know how anybody cannot like this movie. It's such a good time.
I don't either. It's so perfect, man.
Yeah.
So we talked about, Bobby, your first horror movie and what that movie means to you. But now for a second, I want to go scream on you. What's your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite
I was not
movie?
Expecting that. I literally almost jumped.
What is your favorite horror movie of all time, my friend?
Halloween 1978 is my favorite horror movie of all time. That's a movie I say is like one of my comfort horror movies. I can watch that over and over. I feel like I know all the lines to that movie. Yes.
He's right here all the time.
I know. I love it.
He's always here, man.
It's great.
And it's funny because I've talked about this a lot. Growing up, I was not a Halloween fan. I think because growing up, I grew up in a video store and I always gravitated to Friday the 13th. And I've always felt like Friday the 13th, still to this day, of the big three for me, which would be Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th will always be my favorite. But as I'm an older person now and I'm smarter and not too smart, but I feel like as the more I've aged, the more I've come to realize that Halloween is actually the most terrifying of the big three. because you have Freddy Krueger, who's this burnt, victim that comes to you in your horror, in your dreams, and he, is a child killer. Jason is this monster born of the Necronomicon. He's essentially a Deadite. And
which people argue
with
but you see the book in Jason Goes
to Hell. And he talked about it. Adam talked about it, the director. He said, yeah, I did that on purpose. He couldn't call it out because it was owned by a different company.
Yeah.
But Jason is totally a Deadite. But Michael Myers is a fucking guy, man. Like, he's the dude that could live next door to you that just snapped and went crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, as an adult who has kids that I have to protect, that's the most realistic and scary of the bunch to me. And one of the scariest moments in Halloween is when the mask comes off and he steps into the light and you see that he's just a normal guy. And then he pulls that mask back down and goes right back to work. That's fucking terrifying to me, man.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that. And I understand because of the sequels and what they turned Michael into with the whole cult situation. But with John Carpenter one, it is, he's a guy that's just pure evil. That doesn't mean he's supernatural. He's just fucking evil. And you clearly see that because he got shot 6 times out the window.
Six times?
6 times. And Dr. Loomis go over the balcony and Michael's gone. So like, all right, this dude is not normal, but they wasn't leaning toward the supernatural route until later in the sequels. But you're right, like he is just he's a guy that just snapped. And he's just, and then when you watch 18, they allude to that as well. He's just like, I think Lori said he's not like, something, he's a human being, and we need to understand that. So they're trying to make it clear, like Michael is a regular guy that just tick tick boom. But what you said with Freddy and Jason, they're supernatural killers, like up until at least with Jason, like 2 and 3, he was more of like the human side, maybe even 4. But then I think he became more of like zombie Jason in part 6 because he rose from the dead from the lightning and stuff. And then obviously Freddy, he kills people in their dreams.
He became Frank and Jason.
Yeah, Frank and Jason, exactly.
And I think that Frank and Jason is the scariest out of all of them.
Oh yeah,
but it's still like he is a Deadite, like that's the whole thing. Like, he died in the lake as a kid, and then he was there's a behind the scenes thing talking about how Pamela Voorhees used the Necronomicon to bring him back because she was so broken apart. And I love that idea. I wish they could have done that, but they were owned by different studios, so they couldn't do that. And with Freddy, like like Freddy was a monster as a person, but then he was even more of a monster, obviously, afterwards. But Michael is just, that's why I'm not a huge fan of the Rob Zombie Halloweens. Like, I don't want this backstory about little Michael had a terrible childhood. No, man. He went in his sister's room, saw her titty, cut her up a little bit, and then just went and seeing his sister's titties will do that to a man. You see your sister's titties, you're gonna go crazy. It's
traumatizing.
That's why it started, man. It wasn't a bad childhood. He walked in and seen sister titties, and it just blew his head. Like, that's it. Click, click, boom. So, Bobby, I've had a great time with you, my friend. This has been amazing. I got one last question for you before we go.
Yes.
We're going to go back to the Evil Dead 2. And what we're doing now is we're ranking this on a skull count. 0 skulls being the worst and 5 being the best. Here's the catch. We're not ranking this on production. We're not ranking it on score. We're not being critics here. What we're doing is ranking this movie strictly on what it means to you and how much this movie affected you. So 0 to 5 skulls, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best, and you can use half and quarter skulls. What would your ranking of Evil Dead 2 be?
5. And I know you probably knew that I was going to say that, but it's a 5 for me just because, again, it's such a fun time. It's the perfect mixture of horror, comedy. It's entertaining from beginning to end. And it was just a movie for me as a kid. I rewatched, even though I was traumatized. I showed it to my cousins. I showed it to my sister. And even to this day, like my cousin, she nailed, we're much older, and she nailed this across the country. And she texted me literally like 2 weeks ago and just like, hey, which evil did we watch? What evil did we watch when we were younger? I said part 2. She said, all right, I'm about to show my boyfriend. I said, that's crazy. Like, you still remember this movie 30 something years, like, old, and you want to show this to like your boyfriend, which is amazing. So it means a lot to me, and to see that it still affects my sister and my cousins because I put them on, it means a lot to me. So yes, it's going to be a 5 out of 5 schools.
And that it's amazing what this, for me, it's House from 1986. That's my first horror movie.
Yes.
That's the nostalgia for me that takes me back and makes me go, God damn, I love this genre. And the thing about horror, and look, I'm not trying to pat my own back or pat your back or anybody else in the scene, but man, this is the most inclusive group of anybody. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, gay, straight, Jew, Hindu, Christian, atheist. The minute you bring up Freddy Krueger, we're going to hug you, and we're brothers from now on. We're brothers and sisters, man. It's like, it doesn't matter. We love this genre so much that we dress ourselves up and we buy merchandise and we go to cons. And that's, you don't see, Comedy Con. You don't see rom-com con. You don't see people spend 3 days to dress up like Ryan Gosling from The Notebook and go stand at a con going, it still isn't over. Like, you don't get that, man. But like with horror, that's what this means to us. And the minute that we find out that you're in this, it's family. And I'm so proud to be a part of this group and a part of this scene. And I love it so much. And I love all the people in it. On that note, we're going to sign off. Don't go anywhere, Bobby. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, like I told you at the beginning, make sure you're clicking these links down here in the description, subbing and following on social media. You're not going to regret it. I love this guy to death, and you're going to have a great time following him and watching his content. As always, guys, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.